Hello, it's David Ludlow here, and today we're going to have a look at a range of lenses for the EFM mount cameras. So generally I'm taking you out on my journeys, either landscape photography or street photography. They're my two main passions with photography. I'm generally out with this camera, which is the Canon M50 Mark II. This is the kit lens that's on there at the moment, but when I go out I take one or maybe two lenses just to see how they perform. So let's have a look at those lenses. I'm not going to give you all the technical details about them. Let's just look at them and the size of them, and you'll find if you look at the playlist, there's a playlist for each lens. But if you want more of a particular lens or a particular style of photography, the landscape or street photography, just let me know in the comments below. And if you are new to the channel, I do welcome you. So let's have a look at these lenses. We'll go through the lenses roughly in the size of their focal length. So we're going to start off with this one. It's an Artisan's 7.5, and this is a lovely little lens. You can see how it fits nicely in my hand, and really this is the case for nearly all the lenses for the EFM mount. So this lens is a fisheye lens. It goes from f2.8 through to f16, so it lets a reasonable amount of light in, but it really is a fun lens. It's a manual focus and it's really affordable. So this lens is great. It gives you a slightly different perspective on your photos. Yes, you're going to get some curves, but it does take up the whole frame itself. You can get smaller lenses, slightly smaller lenses that just give you a circle, whereas this one, it does give you the square and the size of the actual photo itself. If you're taking your photo horizontally, exactly horizontally, then things remain reasonably horizontal, but as soon as you start doing lookups and a slight angle, then you accentuates the curve itself. But a really fun lens, and look at the size of that, absolutely brilliant. And actually it's quite a heavy-ish in terms of the EFM mount, but it's okay. Probably just slightly heavier than the lens that comes with the Canon M50 Mark II, the kit lens, but this is lovely little lens. On this lens you adjust the aperture actually on the lens itself, and again it's manual focus, and you've got a slightly different cap. The normal caps don't fit on this. You sort of got this built-in lens shade, and the lens or the glass at the front is quite domed. It's got a curvature there, but there you go. So I think we've done one video on this. There's only one in the playlist. If you want more, let me know. So the next one on the list is a zoom lens. Now this one is the Canon 11-22. So the f-stops go from 4 to 5.6, so it's not the greatest one for letting a lot of light in, but actually if you're out doing landscape photography, this lens is absolutely brilliant. Really pin sharp. I really love using this lens. Now this is lighter than that last lens, although it's about the same size, but it is built with a metal mount on there. So I think it's a well-made lens. When you zoom, lens just goes in and out very slightly, but not very much. But it has got this switch on the side that locks the lens into place, so you need to make sure that you release that before you start using it. But it is a nice pin sharp lens. I really love this one, especially for landscape photography. So again, if you want to see more of that one, let me know, and the type of photography, and I'll try and accommodate. Right, now this next one on the list is an absolute brilliant lens. To be honest, I'm going to be saying this all the way through because I love nearly all these lenses to go with the Canon M50 Mark II. This lens here, look at the size of that. It is known as the Pancake lens. It's a 22mm prime lens. it opens up to f2, so it will let a lot of light in. So this one's great for street photography. We've got a fairly wide focal length there, but it's good for portraiture. It gives you a fairly nice blurry background, or that bokeh if you need it, so it's good for portraits. Really a great all-round lens. Now the thing that I like about this one, and I use it for this a lot, and that's when you want to put it on your camera and just have something small to take out with you. It sort of nearly makes the M50 Mark II a pocket camera. Perhaps you've got to have slightly bigger pockets, but nevertheless, it's a lovely small camera. And so if you're doing street photography with this, people don't see this great big lens. They don't think you're sort of in their face with it. Okay, you might have to step a little bit closer, but there's an argument with street photography that it's good to get a bit closer, or it's good to get a bit more of the scene in, because then it perhaps tells a bit more of the story. But actually on the camera, it's a lovely little lens. It's certainly one I recommend. I mean, I could go through these and recommend them all, to be honest. You've just got to decide what you want. You probably don't need as many lenses as this, but have a look through and see what you think, and have a look at some of the shots that I get with them. Have a look at the playlists. So that's the 22mm. Stay with me so you can actually see all the lenses and what sort of size they are. So now here's another really good lens. This is the Viltrox 23mm. Look at that. Now it's sort of made out of metal. You can feel it sort of cold to the touch, but it's still quite light. It's not that heavy, as none of them are, to be perfectly honest. The mount is a metal mount, and the good thing with Viltrox, unlike Canon, it actually comes, if we just open this up, with a metal lens hood. Really nice, just clips into place. Now the interesting thing with this one is that you can set the aperture on the side here to A, so that the camera, you can deal with the aperture in the camera as normal, or you can actually adjust the aperture manually using this. When I tend to just set it on A and then deal with it inside the camera as I normally do, but I do understand for videographers that's quite good if you want to change the aperture on the fly, so as you're filming it's nice and smooth. Then the other really good thing about this is that it opens up to 1.4, so it lets a load of light in, so absolutely brilliant for nighttime photography. I've used this for street photography, and it's really good, and you can go on into the night, open up your aperture and let a lot more light in. So a really nice lens, and quite a reasonable price really for a prime lens. The only issue I've found when I've been out doing a bit of photography in the sunlight, when I'm getting sort of sun coming towards me, I get a lot of chromatic aberration, which can be dealt with in Lightroom. That's not too bad, but it's just a little bit annoying that you get this sort of purple haze on the larger apertures, you know, when you're around about 1.4. But that's only when you've got sun directly coming towards you. Other than that, this is a nice pin sharp lens, and another lens that I'd recommend because it's a little bit cheaper to buy. It's quite good for the budget. It's a nice looking lens. Again, you know, it's not too bad, the size of it. It still fits in my hand quite nicely, and it's not too weighty. So quite nice on the camera, and one worth considering. So again, if you want to see more of this one, make a comment and we'll have a go for you. The next one is the most recent one, so you may have already seen the video on this one. I've only done one outing with it. This is the newer 25mm manual focus. So again, this is a nice one for letting lots of light in, because it opens right up to 1.8, which is absolutely brilliant. So you could go and use this at night time. I haven't tried it at night yet, but that's something I'd like to go and do. This is another one of those fun lenses, you know, just like you can do it with most lenses, to be honest, but with this one I've gone out, set up the aperture to something like f8, set my speed between 250 and 500 for street photography, set the ISO to automatic, use zone focusing, so really you turn your camera into a point and shoot. You really don't have to worry, and it's really good fun. This lens, look at the size of that, really nice, fits in the palm of the hand, and it looks good on the camera. It's, again, you can be fairly discreet with this one when it's on the camera, especially for street photography. I've not tried it for any landscape yet, but that's another one we can go and try. Now this next lens is probably one of the larger lenses. This is the Sigma 16mm, so it's a wide angled lens, it's a prime lens. The good thing again with Sigma is that it does come with a lens hood, so you can attach that lens hood on there. Its aperture opens to 1.4, so it's another one of these lenses that lets a lot of light in, so you could use it nicely at night time. It's great for landscape photography. I've gone out and used this for landscape and got some excellent pin sharp results, which is really good. But it is just one of the bigger lenses for a prime lens. If you look at it, it's sort of filling my hand there, but it not too heavy, and it's fairly nicely weighted on the camera. You probably wouldn't want to go a lot bigger, but Sigma lenses are really well made. We've got a metal mount just there, and remember, none of these lenses need an adapter. They all fit the EFM range of cameras, but this one really feels nice. It's well made and a really excellent one. So again, it's something I would recommend for landscape photography and maybe some street photography. I've not taken it out for street, I don't think. I'm losing track. But there you go, great for landscape. So this next one's an interesting one, and I haven't actually done a video on this one yet, so I have got plans to do one. This is the Canon 28mm macro lens. So there it is. It's a very light lens actually, really light. Not a bad size, as you can see there. It is a plastic mount on this particular one, so I suppose that's why it's a bit lighter, and it's not, the price isn't too bad either. So this one opens up to about f3.5, but the good thing with this is that you can get very close. You've even got a sort of super macro mode on this, but the really interesting thing, if we just take the lens hood off and I just unscrew this off the front here, what we've got is a light in the front in two halves, so you can actually, because the problem with macro is as you get close you sort of start covering the light up, and if you think this only opens to 3.5, it needs a bit more light. So there's two lights at the front, those two there. You just take this front bit off and you can switch them on. There's a switch on the side where you can switch and dim them, so you could have one on, both on, and make them a bit brighter as well. So again, I haven't done a video on this, but it's a lens that will go focus through to infinity as well, so you could just take it out as a general purpose lens as well as using it for macro. So maybe that's one that I need to do coming up in the future, a video for you. But a really nice lens, well made, a bit lighter, but there you go. So now we've got another Sigma. There's a set of 3 Sigmas altogether that they do for the EFM mount. So this one's the 30mm and it opens up to 1.4, so another great one for letting a lot more light in, good for portraits, good for some landscapes, and I think also good for street photography. I've taken it out on street photography and absolutely loved it. And it's, again, because it's 1.4, you can go through to night time and it's just letting a lot more light in. It's really well made, just like the 16mm. It's a metal mount. We'll just open it and show you. but interestingly it's smaller than the 16mm. So there's the 16mm and there's the 30, and you can see the size difference. The 30 is much smaller than the 16, but nevertheless a lovely lens. It does produce some really good results, and I've taken it out on street photography and absolutely loved it. Really pin sharp, lets a lot of light in, great for night time. So again, another recommendation. So that's two of the Sigma ones that we've looked at so far. Okay, now we've got the Canon 32mm, and really this is probably the sharpest of them all. I mean, it's really brilliant. It's another well-made lens. Again, look at the size, still not too massive. If we take this end off, it's a metal mount again. I mean, with this one you can go as close as sort of 1/2 meter through to infinity, and this one opens up to 1.4, so another great lens for letting lots of light in. A bit on the expensive side, but nevertheless a brilliant lens. Now, you don't need a 30mm and a 32 necessarily. Obviously I've got it for the channel, so you need to have a look at the photos, compare the size of them. There's the Sigma, which does come with a lens hood, the Canon. So they're of similar sort of size. Sigma's slightly bigger, but the Sigma's a better price. But nevertheless, this one is probably the best of the best when it comes to sharpness, etc. It really is a brilliant, great lens, and I love using this lens. I know I've said it, I love them all and they're all great. They all produce really good results. Now this one, really one of my favourites. I know they're all my favourite really, but this one is absolutely excellent. This is the Sigma 56mm. Now don't forget, with all of these you need to multiply it by 1.6 to give you a full frame equivalent. So this is equivalent to, let's say, about 90mm on a full frame. Absolutely brilliant for street photography. You can stand just that bit further away, so you can again be a bit discreet by not getting too close to people. It's a nice weight, it's not too large. Again, look at it, it fits in my hand really nicely there, and it really is pin sharp. If I'm doing street photography, I love to set the shutter speed high. You've got an aperture that opens up to 1.4, so it really can let a lot of light in, whatever sort of conditions you go out in, whether it's a dull day, a sunny day, or at night time. It's a brilliant lens. Again, just like all the Sigmas, it's well made. If I just take this off, you can see it's a metal mount on there. It's not too heavy. Again, if I compare that with the Sigma, there's the 30mm, there's the 56. So it's getting smaller. This one's smaller. And I'll compare, there's the 16mm Sigma, and there is the 56. So you can actually see that the 56 is a nice size. And again, like all Sigmas, it comes with a lens hood. You don't have to purchase that separately. So what I've done purposely is shown you all the prime lenses first. Now I've got 3 zoom lenses, so they vary from a sort of a wider angle to more zoomed in. This one is the kit lens. It's a really nice size. The aperture goes from 3.5 through to 6.3, so not the widest. And again, when you're zoomed in, 6.3 really is the smallest you can get. But to be honest, it's quite an underrated lens, because I find that this lens sits nice on the camera. It's not too large. You've got a nice wide angle. It zooms in a bit to about 45, which is nice. If you're doing street photography, you can be a bit discreet with it, and it does produce some nice results, even though it's the kit lens. And I think it's pretty well made. Yes, if we'd have a look at the end, it's not got a metal mount, it's a plastic mount on there, but actually I think this is really worth having. It's a nice one just to keep on for general photography. You know, if you're out with the family, it's not too large, and you can zoom in a bit so you can see facial expressions of the kids and that sort of thing. So I think it's great just for taking the camera out and keeping things light. So this next lens is the Canon 18-150. It's become my go-to lens. I sort of leave it on the camera most of the time, so I can just pick the camera up. I've got a nice range. I go from 18, I can zoom into 150, which is quite nice. It's not too large. There it is there. Obviously it's a bit taller than the kit lens. If I just compare it with the kit lens for you, you can see the difference there. Not as portable, I suppose. You know, you can't put it in your pocket, and if you want to keep the size down because you're traveling, then perhaps not take this one with you. But to be honest, it gives you a much wider range than the kit lens, so it is a really nice lens to have. Now I went for the silver one because for some reason it was a bit cheaper than the black one, and I didn't really care what colour it was. They're both the same lenses. Yeah, so we go from 3.5 to 6.3, so it doesn't open up a lot in this particular lens, a bit like the kit lens. But to be honest, as a go-to lens, just adjust the ISO if you need to let a bit more light in, and slow your shutter speed down a bit. If you're handheld, then keep a fast shutter speed and just change your ISO. This lens produces some really nice results, and I quite like this one just for walking around, to be honest, where if I'm not sure whether I need to be zoomed in or whether I need a wide angle, then I can take this one and I've got the best of all worlds. Nice lens. I can hold it in one hand, not too heavy. And I've said that about all of them, haven't I? They're all nice lenses, and you don't need this many. What you need is to choose the right range for your type of photography. And finally, what we've got here is a 55 to 200 zoom. And again, look, I'm holding that in one hand, and if I compare that with the 18 to 150, they're both virtually the same size. So the aperture goes from 4.5 to 6.3, and again, it's not constant, so when you zoom in, then the best you're going to get is about 6.3. First started using this, I didn't like it that much, to be honest, but it's growing on me. You can just zoom in that little bit further, and yes, you probably need a bit more light or change the ISO with this particular one, but it is growing on me and it's becoming quite a popular lens by all accounts for this particular camera. So that gives us the range of lenses that I'm using. I've got 7 Canon EFM mount lenses. I've got 3 Sigma EFM mount lenses, 1 Viltrox, and then 1 Artisans and 1 Newer. Newer is the 25mm manual focus. So altogether that's 13 lenses, which means once I've gone out and done videos with all 13, there'll be 13 playlists to choose from, including some dedicated to POV or London or Milton Keynes or landscape. But you need to tell me what sort of lenses you've got. I'd really be interested to know what range of lenses you've got that are in the EFM mount range for your EFM mount camera, and if there's any particular photography you'd like me to do with any of these lenses. Just let me know in the comments and I will try and accommodate over time to make sure that happens for you. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing so that you don't miss any of my trips out using these lenses. If you like the video, please give me the thumbs up because it does help the channel, and don't forget that notification bell so you get notified when I do upload a video. So that's enough of me talking. I need to start planning my next trips. So thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.